What's up, everybody? So Sam failed his con save up against the Wiggly Air Goblin's evil magics, so session got canceled today. Tis I, your boy, it's Josh. We're here for another episode. Session's canceled. Matt is here also, I guess. Say hi, Matt.
I am also here, I guess.
Exactly. And Isaiah.
Hello, the Wiggly Air Goblin almost got me too. I am currently dying, but maybe this is a lesson. Maybe we should just let him out of the cage every once in a while. Maybe this is the
Mayhaps. Probably not though.
Yeah, no, fuck that.
Listen, I don't know. Brett's good to me. I don't know what you guys what you're doing.
Like, he can be good to you. It doesn't mean he's getting out of the cage. Rattle.
As you may have noticed from the lack of his sultry tones, we have no Sam today. This is a three-man show because, like I said, Sam failed his con save and is dying ever so slightly and slowly. But that's okay. Well, I mean, not okay for him, but it's okay for us. The show goes on.
This is going to be mostly a two-man show today because I feel like y'all two are going to hash it out real hard, and I'm going to be on the side being like,
Do you not have strong opinions about this, Isaiah?
I do, thoughts? But I probably sit somewhere in the middle.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a kind of a good thing. I think we need a good we need a what's the word? A mediator? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so what are we talking about? Well, if you looked at the episode title, you're gonna know what we're talking about, but let's just pretend like those don't exist and I'm just gonna explain it anyway. So I had an idea a little while ago, and it came to me in a dream, and by a dream I mean I was in the shower and I was like, "Ooh, this would be fun." And I love, as you guys know, I love going on and on and on about really specific topics. It's like my favorite. It's just favorite thing to do, both to do and listen to on the internet. So I was like, you know what? What if we just picked a class and just went to town on it? So that's what we're gonna do. We have chosen a class. I have chosen a class. I didn't let them have any input, because when I was thinking about this idea, I was like, what's the best? Well, actually, let me back up a little bit. Because I don't know if I ever explained this to you guys. Excuse me. Sorry.
Bring it back now, y'all.
Yeah, sorry. My throat just like... Where was I going? Oh, so I was thinking about the idea of like going into each individual class in D&D and just like really honing in on them. And I thought to myself, who's the most quintessential? Who do we start with? Who's the cream of the crop? Where does it all begin when it comes to designing and thinking about like, who do you think of first? And the two answers for me anyway in D&D is like, you think of the fighter and the wizard. So I'm like, we have to start with one of them. So we're talking about fighter, because I have some words for wizards, the company, not the class in this case, and some words with Mr. Jeremy and Chris Perkins, and I don't know, I can never remember anyone else's name who works on it, so just those two are getting the flack today. Yeah, I know. Look, I know there's other people on the D&D team, but I can never remember their damn names. So, Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford get all the flack.
Oh, we are never getting that sponsor now. God damn it.
They're cool guys. It's fine. But anyway, I have decided we're going in on fighter. We're going to town, and this is gonna be. Okay, I don't want to promise too much here. This is going to be a little mini series. I do want to get to every class. However, I'm not going to promise any regularity or schedule on this. It's just going to be whenever I feel like it or one of us feels like it. We're not going to like every consecutive episode is not going to be one of these. It's just going to be whenever we feel like going into on one of the classes, we will. So yes, the plan is to get to all the classes. No, we're not going to do it in order.
See, audience, this is the reason why the Monster Manual Smasher Pass was vetoed. For this, comment below.
This is not.
Let us know.
It was not vetoed. Don't you worry. We're still doing it.
It wasn't. I mean,
it was delayed for now. But soon. TM.
All right.
Don't you worry, bud. We're gonna do it. You and me, comrade, together.
Sure. So anyway, yes. So this is the beginning to the little class mini series that we're gonna do, and I thought fighter, best one to start with.
Okay, so before we start, I do have to ask you a question.
Yes.
Have you ever played full fighter, nothing else?
I'm not going to answer that question because we're gonna get into that. So hold that. I will answer that, but I don't want to answer it right now because I want to set some foundation first.
Okay.
But the short answer, no. I'll say that right now. But there's a long-winded answer. But that's the short answer. Okay. So, first things first. I have three questions for you, gentlemen, and I think my plan is to do this for every class. So, have that thought in the back of your head. The three questions I'm going to put forth is, on a 1 to 5 scale, how do you rate the class in question? Who is, for you, this is all personal, by the way. This is not like how you feel about it in relative to anything else. This is just your personal feelings on the class in question. Who is the most quintessential example of the class in media, any form of media? Everything's fair game. And have you played it? So, and just to explain my scale. So 1 to 5 scale, a 1 is like, I have no interest in playing it. I don't like how it's designed. I think it has a bunch of problems. I do not care to look at it. None of or very few of the subclasses are interesting to me. That's a 1. A 5 is, I super love it. Lots of really fun subclasses, lots of cool mechanics. I've played it, or I'm super interested in playing it and had a lot of fun with it. And then the 3 is like, there's some good, there's some bad. It's a little half and half for me. Some parts of it are interesting, some parts of it not so much. I would like to stress on the scale thing. A 5 does not mean you think it's perfect. Obviously, there's always things you could potentially change. A 5 just means you really, really like the way it is. Doesn't mean you think it's flawless, because there is no such thing as flawless game design, obviously. And then the other 2 questions are fairly self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to start, or do you guys have any immediate thoughts that jump to mind? Because I already thought about the answers to these, so.
Yeah, why don't you start? This is kind of your show.
Sure.
You want me to give you the example? Okay. Sure. 1 second, I need some water. My throat was like parching up. Okay.
It's all good.
So, I'll start with the 1 to 5 thing. So, I'm gonna be honest. Pre-Tasha's fighter for me was a 1, or very close to a 1.
What?
Hold on. I had very little interest in playing it. There was basically only one subclass I really thought was cool. A lot of the mechanics I looked at and I was just like, it's fine, but everything else was so much higher on the list for me. Post Tasha's fighter sits around a 2 for me.
Now, why is that?
Because so the 2 subclasses they added with Tasha's, Psy Knight and Rune Knight, I think are super dope. That's a big one. They added a couple of fighting styles they like a lot. They made it so every fighter can potentially get a maneuver through the superior technique fighting style, which I like a lot. And as I went back and looked a little bit more, there are some bits and pieces in a lot of the fighter subclasses that I like. A lot of the subclasses I'm not super crazy about, but there's little bits and pieces in each of them that I'm interested in. So it's bumped up to a 2 for me. Maybe it could go up to a 3 potentially, but I'm sitting on a 2 right now. And then as far as for the most like who is the quintessential fighter in media for me, the answer I have here is, you may find kind of funny, because the character in question is not a character I like very much, nor do I like his video games very much. However, I think he's a very good example of what the class should be, and that's Link from Legend of Zelda.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Link is like the peak example for me of like what a fighter should be. He's got the versatility. he can use all the weapons under the sun. You know, in Twilight Princess, you even learn a bunch of like fancy techniques that are basically, you know, maneuvers. There's lots of stuff about Link. I think the big thing though is the versatility aspect, and I think that's the part that should be focused on with Fighter, because I think that's the most interesting part, is the idea of like, I'm so good with so many different tools. It's funny because I was originally gonna say my first thought was actually originally Guts, but then when I thought about it a little bit more, I realized that Guts is a little bit of a barbarian in my head.
I would say he has probably more levels than actually no.
He might be half and half.
Yeah, it's pretty close, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, Matt, are you on that same wavelength?
Yeah, it could be either or half and half.
Yeah, I mean, particularly when he gets the Berserker armor, like then he really like dips barbarian, you know? And then, as you said, Isaiah, have I played Fighter? Have I played just Fighter? So technically, yes. I have played a Pure Fighter and I have played the Class Fighter, but it's been such a small amount that I'm gonna say no. Because I've played it so little. Fun fact, my first 5e character I ever made was an Eldritch Knight. Which
nice. Yeah.
Which, I mean, Isaiah, you may find funny because, you know, I have said many times how much I dislike Eldritch Knight.
Yeah, I thought it was weird at first, but it's one of those things where I was like, there's no way he hates this thing and he's never even played it. Like if you had never even played Eldritch Knight, and this is me just finding out that you have, I probably wouldn't real mad, but you know, it's one of those like, don't knock it till you try situations. You obviously knocked it, you know, or because you tried it. So.
Yes and no. Again, I've played it very little. It was only like I was maybe 3 sessions, and then like Claw had a level in Fighter, so it's like I played it a little bit there. And then if you guys remember the Swobold I made, that was a Fighter. But again, that was a one-shot thing. It was very small. So like, yes, I've played Fighter, but no, not let's put it this way. I haven't played Fighter enough to say I'm super experienced in playing it. My opinions of the class are entirely from reading it, looking at it, comparing it, observing the abilities, all that fun stuff.
Have you ever had a player in 5e who was a fighter or did anything fighters? Because I know you're running a game currently, but have you run another game or a one shot in the past with a fighter?
As far as running 5e, I have never had a pure fighter, but I've only run like essentially 2 games. So, you know,
2 full games and a bunch of one shots. Like, I mean, don't sell yourself too short on 5e.
No, for as far as running goes.
Yeah.
I haven't run a bunch of one shots.
You ran like at least 3 to my knowledge.
I did.
The one with the Arcadia one.
Okay, yeah, I did forget about
the Oh no, those are Matt. My bad.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah. I haven't run 5e that much. Like most of my running of 5e specifically has been my current campaign. So yeah, no, I haven't had anyone who's like pure 100. I'm playing fighter. I'm living the fighter life. I'm fighter McFight. Like, no, not really. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of all I have on that one. But who would like to? Which one of you wants to go next?
I don't know. Do you want a sandwich? I said, like, do you want to go in the middle since you're the in-between guy, or do you? Okay.
For me, I'll give fighter. I'll give it like a 3.5. If I'm feeling particularly nice, I'll give it a 4.
All right, no halvesies. I want firm numbers. Gun to your head.
I'll give it a 4. Yeah, I'll give it a 4.
Okay.
I like fighter a lot. I think it is got almost limitless versatility, but I think that versatility is sort of also its downfall because it doesn't have any super distinct marks besides, you know, action surge and its 6 ASIs, which are cool, but they're sort of at times I feel like a stand-in for real class features, and maybe they are. That's possible that they are sort of built that way to be a class made of feats, at least as far as 5e is concerned, or at least as far as 5e is concerned now. I don't think it was always meant to be that way, but I think it sort of evolved into be that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, to me, like the quintessential fighter, this is going to be some blasphemous shit. It's actually Trevor Belmont.
That's not blasphemous. Why would you say that'd be some blasphemous shit?
Because, his whole thing is a vampire hunter. People are like, oh, he's a ranger. It's like, well, he's not, though.
He's not.
No.
I don't think he is.
He's not a...
No.
Okay.
Well, so, like, Trevor might have some levels in ranger on him, but if you think about all of the things he does with the vampire killer and then the Morning Star later on, they're basically fighter maneuvers, right? He trips people, He blinds them, he uses AoE, he uses keep away tactics, he'll even use it to switch places with his compatriots. So, like, he is 100% a fighter with some knowledge of monster hunting and some special magic items that make monster hunting easier, but he's 100% a fighter.
Here's the thing, too, on that particular note, because I agree with you. I think Trevor 100% is a fighter, and I've never thought of Trevor as a ranger, because I don't think the idea of like, oh, you hunt monsters, you are automatically a ranger. I don't think that's how that works. You know what I mean? There's a big difference between I'm a monster hunter and, I have to hunt this specific like beasties, and I'm a guy who's good with nature. I understand how to camp and travel. I'm skilled with a bow and I can tie a good knot. Like a ranger is like there's a different vibe going on there. I've never thought of Trevor as a ranger. Maybe he has a couple of levels in it. You could make an argument of what is it? Is it Hunter?
The Monster Hunter Ranger?
No, not even, just Hunter.
Hunter,
oh,
yeah.
Hunter.
He maybe you could make an argument for that, but even then, I think he feels much more battle master to me. And then, have you played fighter?
Oh yes, I played several. Like I said, I actually enjoy playing fighter, but I enjoy playing fighter because of the way that I enjoy playing the game in general. Like, I don't mind not having concrete features because I like coming up with what makes my character cool on my own without really the class features, Like, the mechanics are just sort of a supplement for what I think is cool, not a necessity for what I want to be cool. So, like, if I want to play that... Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, question, have you played a pure fighter?
Yes, several.
Okay.
I've played a full Rune Knight, full Battle Master. I've played a full... It's not here anymore, but the Cavalier or Chevalier, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Cavalier's in the game. What are you talking about? This is in Xanathar's.
Because it's originally it was called Knight. I played that one.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I've also played a full Echo Knight. So I played quite a few.
You're not talking about the Purple Knight,
No,
are
not
you?
Purple Dragon Knight.
No.
Okay. There's why I just want to clarify the difference.
Purple Dragon Knight is
the Banneret.
Banneret. Yeah, that's a different thing. When did you play a Rune Knight?
I played a one-shot like 2 months ago, and I level 10 Rune Knight. It was really fun.
Oh, okay. See, that's what I'm saying. See, but like, so do you count one-shots as playing a class? Because I do.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially if you already have experience in that class, because there's not very much you need to learn, right? Like, you have like your features and you got to figure them out, but like, if you have a firm grasp on what the class is, the subclass features are just sort of supplemental.
I guess I feel like I'm cheating a little bit if I say I've played a class and it's only been in a session or two. I don't know. That feels like I'm...
No, because then basically for me that'd be like I've only played literally like not even a quarter of the classes when I've played every class at least once in a one shot or two. Like, I feel like that's fair.
All right, fair enough. I suppose maybe I'm restricting myself too much. Okay, all right. Matt, where do you fall?
All right, so kind of piggybacking a little bit off the Isaiah's one point at the very end there. Do you guys remember? This is just going in the way back machine to 2017. Yes, I know. Holy shit. 5 whole years before the big coof. There was a poll from D&D Beyond that came out out of 100,000 players of what their highly like the most played class and race combo.
Yeah, it's human fighter.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
They made another poll back in 2002, so only 2 years ago. Granted.
2002 or 2020?
2020. Holy shit. I'm sorry. Sorry.
5 years not out in 2002.
Jeez. But no, back in 2020, they redid that poll. Same thing. Human fighter. Fighters are the most played class in D&D for a variety of reasons. Because some could say, yeah, it's easy to play. Others say it's the mechanics, the most flavorful. But I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go in. As I am the class attorney right now, and I'm defending the fighter.
All right, hold
to
on.
the
Before
max
we go in, Matt,
on the
give me a
jury.
personal rating for you yourself.
I think 4. Honestly, I think a 4.
Okay, I thought you were gonna give it a 5. Honestly.
No, I don't like. I know I joked earlier where I was like, it's the best class. No, for me personally, I like more spellcasters, but I do think the fighter is definitely in the like. I don't know if I would say my top 5, but it's definitely in overall D&D between the history and player base and everything. I definitely think it's definitely like within the top 3 overall. But yeah, I think 4 just because again the class, the mechanics. Honestly, I know Josh, you were saying that you didn't like fighter until Tasha's. But I feel like every fighter subclass, with the exception of the banneret, I think they're all good.
I counter that with champion.
So champion, and this is again, I'm gonna go into it with. I agree with you with champion. I feel like
hold on, wait, we're getting ahead.
Yeah, we're getting ahead. I know.
We're getting ahead. Who's your quintessential? Who's the fighter for you in media?
So it's weird because I have a couple ideas and I'm trying to pick between. I think I'm gonna go with. So I have actually like 4 examples here, and I'm having a hard time picking between which one I want to say. I guess could I spout them off to you guys and see like what do you think? I mean,
it's your personal one, but you can spout them off if you want.
I think I want to hear your personal opinions before you start bringing us into it.
Okay, all right. So I'll go with I think my big one, Captain America. Captain America.
That's a
Battlemaster fighter.
Yeah,
he can use all types of weaponry between shields, guns, knives, his fists. A hammer, Thor's hammer. Like he can literally, he is a master of all types of weaponry. His combat skills are unmatched. Besides, fucking magic nonsense.
Besides anyone who's a martial artist, yeah.
Besides, 9 feet tall, giant purple people. Like it's other than that, I think he is a very good example of what if you want to go with your stereotypical human fighter, it's gotta be Cap.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Debating between who were the other ones.
So the other 3, so 2 of them are kind of a toss-up for me because they're different examples of fighters. One was Legolas or Gimli.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I always contest that Legolas isn't a fighter, but that's a.
What do you think he is?
I always felt like Legolas was a ring. He's so focused on a book.
I see, yeah, but that sort of is where you think like I feel like Ranger needs a bow.
I definitely default to Ranger being a ranged fighter, yeah, or being being a ranged combatant.
Whereas, I don't know.
Gimli for sure. Gimli, I had no argument.
Gimli's straight up like champion fighter. You're basic like
Gimli just ungles.
Yeah. And then the other one it's mostly because it's me and I gotta go with this Princess Bride, Inigo Montoya, rapier, duelist. It's like I know like the meme is like, oh, swashbuckler rogue, but I feel like he's more of like I don't know. Champion fighter, maybe probably battle master, rapier.
I would argue that Inigo and Wesley are both 100% battle masters. Like they talk about during their fight how they've been taught by all these great sword masters. They're literally like skilled in every prolific sword master's techniques of the time. So 100% battle master.
I mean, they have a little bit of the swashbuckle vibe, but I don't know if they're quite swashbucklers. Like,
right. But those are like my toss-ups, and that's why I think out of all of them, I kind of devolved to Cap, because between all of them, Cap can use any weapon. He's had years of experience and training. He can take out a guy like probably 100 different ways. Gimli, he's gonna use his fucking axe. Legolas, he's gonna use his fucking bow. And he's gonna use his rapier. Cap can use whatever the fuck he wants. And I think
he has a favorite, which is the shield, of course. Well, and the shield and fists, I guess.
Right.
But those are all. I mean, like I said, I always have contention with Legolas, but the other ones I definitely have no argument for.
Right. And then as for playing a fighter, I've only played a fighter, like a full fighter, like Isaiah, once for a level 10 one shot, or I think it was level 10. And it was the Echo Knight, actually, which, man, that is a fucking weird class, but it is so goddamn strong.
It's a lot of fun.
Echo Knight is cool. My thing with Echo Knight is I look at it and I go, what is the fictional inspiration here? Echo Knight feels almost a little out of place. Like I'm not gonna hate on it. I'm not gonna say it shouldn't be there, but it feels a little like it almost doesn't feel like it fits.
Right. You know? Like what I did was, if anybody watched Danny Phantom, I stole the Johnny 13 like shadow thing, and I just flavored my Echo as my shadow.
I mean, you're basically just doing a stand then, aren't you? Like,
no, because my shadow's always there, you know?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think that's the thing, right? Is Echo Knight almost feels a little anime to me.
Well, no, it 100% is. It's the Danny Phantom, the ghost clones. It's the fucking Naruto shadow clone. It's
the Stando, like.
Yeah, it's a stand. It's the Mega Man Zero Spectre mode thing that Zero gets. Like,
yeah, it just I don't know. It just feels a little like, I don't know. It feels a little wonky up against all the others. Like, it almost doesn't quite feel fantasy Conan-y vibe. I can't really pin it. Like, again, I'm not hating, but it's weird.
Actually,
it's going for the timey-wimey weirdness that was, from Campaign 2 Critical Role.
Yeah. Well, so I think it's worth noting, Conan is 100% a battle master, not a barbarian.
A lot of people actually say he's a rogue just because of a lot of shit he does.
So he's here's the thing. His profession is thief, but Conan's not really all that sneaky. Like, if you watch the movies, whenever he tries to sneak in somewhere, he gets caught or just says fuck it and starts slashing people. Like,
right. I was talking more of the books, apparently. Like, a lot of people are like, in the novels and everything, he's more of a rogue, whereas in the movies, he's probably more of a fighter than a barbarian.
Well, it's also a big thing about Conan's backstory is he was taught by like the great sword masters of the wherever the hell he was, and he gets angry a lot. But I would struggle to say that he's going into a rage. He's more of just getting mad and being like, okay, no more being Mr. Nice Guy. Now I'm just going to wallop the shit out of you. Yeah, I would argue that Conan's a pretty good example for a fighter.
I don't know enough about Conan to say one way or the other on that one, so I'll have to take your word for it.
What about just pure Arnold Schwarzenegger? Would he be a fighter?
Just Arnold Schwarzenegger himself.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
I mean, yeah, probably. So, all right. So now we know where we all stand. I think fighter can suck my big doo-doo, and you guys like it.
Objection.
I think there's an important point for me to make here, because I might get some hate, but whatever. My problem with fighter is not the fiction or the story or the concept. I love the idea of a fighter from a fictional standpoint. I love the idea of playing Link. I like the idea of playing Captain America. I like the idea of playing Inigo Montoya, right? Like, I love all that shit. I like the Trevor Belmont, like, fucking sweep the leg, get him prone, run up, punch him in the face, the freaking Daredevil, like, styling on fools, right? Like, I like all of that. My problem is that the mechanics presented with Fighter the class, as it is in the game, I don't feel like let me live out that fantasy well enough without me having to do a lot of extra legwork. Now, Battlemaster maneuvers do help with that a lot, but there's just a certain Fighter is just so basic, and I understand that it was done on purpose. It was designed to be kind of the intentionally basic, easy to play class amongst the group, and I get that, but it feels just I don't know. It just feels unsatisfying to me, and especially Champion Fighter. Champion Fighter gets me like almost mad, I'm gonna be honest, because it's just so nothing. Like, I think the thing that bothers me is that all of Champion Fighter's abilities are passives. I think that's really what bugs me.
I think, and I will agree with you with Champion, that kind of like how, like, we've all talked out of podcasts about, like, I think most fighters, or all fighters, should probably be able to get like a battle maneuver at some point or something. I think the Champion Fighter, a lot of its features, the passives, I think those should just be standard fighter abilities that the class gets. Like, instead of getting a feat at 6th level, they get the, you can crit it on a 19 instead of 20 thing. Or like, it's, no, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I mean, it was going to come up, so I guess we're doing it now. The idea of getting rid of Battlemaster as a class and then giving Battlemaster maneuvers to everybody, right? 100% on board for that. I think we are all on board for that. I know I'm not on board for that.
I'm on board with giving everybody battle maneuvers. I'm not on board with getting rid of the Battlemaster, though.
But you can't have one without the other, Matt.
Yeah, you can.
How do you give everyone maneuvers and then keep Battlemaster?
So I think, and this I got this idea from, there's a YouTube channel, this guy, he's called Instructaboy. If everyone kind of look him up, he's pretty good. He mentioned the person that he got the idea from too, but why do, like, just with a question, why do most people go fighter? All they do is do 2-level dip for action surge, right?
Okay.
What if you switched out action surge for the one, the fighting style that you get to pick 2, or I think it's the feat. You get to pick 2 maneuvers. Here's your D8 or D6 hit, superiority dice. And that way, every single person who plays a fighter, or anyone who dips the 2 levels into fighter, you now get maneuvers, and you can pick. And there's so many maneuvers to pick from, and it makes a bunch of different characters. Yes.
Hold on. Yeah. Pause. Yep. You don't get it if you do a 2-level dip, necessarily. That doesn't.
What do you mean?
Well, because you don't. Well, it depends on. Well, because
I'm saying that, like, if you swap out action surge for this new thing that gives you
for the feat, feat that gives you maneuvers.
The feat that gives you maneuvers.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry. I thought I was clarifying. I'm sorry.
I was like, I thought Josh was saying you don't get action surge on a 2-level dip, and I'm like, but no. I don't. Who can tell him?
No. I'm saying. Wait, what do you mean you don't get action surge on a 2-level dip?
You do.
So that's what I thought he was saying.
No, yeah.
No, that is not what I was saying.
Okay.
I was saying you don't necessarily get that feat on a 2-level dip. That would be handled but yes, you're saying replace action surge with that feat as a class feature instead.
Yeah. And then what he did, which I think is smart, is it's 6-level fighters get a feat. Why not just give them the action surge there? Like, they have extra attack at 5th level. Next level, they go fucking, mega mode, and it's like, oh, cool, now I can attack 2 times a turn. Oh, wait, no, I can action surge, and now I get the 4 times.
But all of this, I still don't. This seems like This seems like you're doing a lot of extra work to try and keep Battlemaster in the game for no reason.
Well, no, because I don't think Battlemaster should be swept under the rug or forgotten. I think it is still important in the game for fight. I think it honestly it is the. Oh, sorry. No,
here's my thing though, Matt. So if you take away maneuvers, right? Like if you give out maneuvers as part of fighter base, Battlemaster has nothing else.
No, it has more maneuvers. You just made the Battlemaster even better. You gave it more maneuvers to do more things. You just gave that person who played Battlemaster even more options for different weapon combos and different things they can do in combat instead of I hit the guy. Okay. I hit the guy again.
But no. My point, what I'm saying is that with only one small exception, which is the weird know your enemy ability they get, literally every single class feature that you get from Battlemaster is just an upgrade to your maneuvers. You get a die upgrade, you get more maneuvers. That's every single one with the exception of know your enemy, which is like a weird thing they threw in at level 7. So you're taking the thing that made the subclass special and giving it to everybody.
Well, no, because it's only giving you 2. It's not giving you a lot. It's giving you two maneuvers you can do, which again is beneficial to every single fighter. And then if you specifically play Battlemaster, you have 5. That's nuts.
Sure.
That's great. At level 3,
yeah,
you have 5 maneuvers. You can do all sorts of crazy nonsense, and it just I feel like it's beneficial rather than saying like I feel that way towards the champion. I feel like the champion fighter can be erased, but it's like, it's level 3 feature, it's level, whatever. Its subclass features can be slapped on any fighter in place of those feats that the normal fighter gets, and you can call it a day and be fine. The Battlemaster, I think, is such a good subclass because of the abilities. And yes, it's like, its subclass abilities only give you more of the thing it does. But, and this is kind of another sub point, 5e is not about the class. It's about the subclasses. 5e was specifically built about subclasses. That's your bread and butter. And just to get rid of the Battlemaster, which is probably one of the most fun examples of a fighter, I feel like it kind of does it a disservice.
I can't necessarily say that I agree with you there, Matt. I feel like,
yeah,
I think the thing here, right, is that, and I don't necessarily disagree with this thought, is that the fighter, as much as I like it, doesn't feel complete for the same reason that I like it, admittedly, right? I like having a bajillion feats, but it does mean that the fighter lacks a really established identity other than the class that gets all the feats. Which isn't much of an identity. So I think that if you could fuse Battlemaster with all of its features into fighter, and then you would get your subclasses on top of that, that to me would make fighter feel complete. And you can sort of do that, and I'm just thinking about this now, and this is potentially maybe why they gave you the maneuvers as a feat, so that you could play the subclass that you want and get the thing that makes the Battlemaster so cool, which is the maneuvers. So at level 20, you could theoretically play a champion fighter with a bunch of maneuvers because you took them as all of your feats, and then you really are the greatest fighter who ever fightered. You know what I mean?
Well, I think most feats you can only take once, right?
Yes.
The maneuvers you can take multiple of.
So quick clarification here. So technically, this is a little wonky. The feat is not that you get a fighter maneuver or a battle. The feat is not that you get a Battlemaster maneuver. What the feat says is you get a fighting style. So the feat we're talking about is fighting initiate. Your martial training has helped you develop a particular style of fighting. As a result, you learn one fighting style option of your choice from the fighter class. If you already have a style, the one you choose must be different. Whenever you reach a level that grants an ASI feature, you can replace this feat's fighting style with another one from the fighter class that you don't have.
I think
no,
he's talking about martial adept. Martial adept.
Hold on. What? Wait, what?
You're thinking of the
martial adept. Yeah, wrong feat.
Yeah, martial adept is what I'm thinking of.
That's the one that gives you maneuvers.
Give you a straight up maneuver?
Yep, and that's from the player's handbook.
Of your choice from amongst those available to the Battlemaster archetype in the fighter class. If a maneuver requires your target to make a saving throw to resist the maneuver's effects, the saving throw DC equals 8 plus your proficiency plus your strength or dex modifier, your choice.
Can you gain one superiority die?
Doesn't say that you can't.
So then yes.
Well, that's the thing. Like now I gotta look up because most feats usually you can't take more than once.
Okay, so hold on, just so I don't look like a complete fucking idiot. The confusion I was having is Fighting Initiate gives you a fighting style, and Tasha's added a fighting style where you can get a maneuver. Mm-hmm. So that's how I thought it was. I forgot about Martial Adept. Because there's a fighting style now called Superior Technique that you can pick as a fighter that gives you a maneuver. But I think it's just one. But yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, well, Isaiah, you didn't finish, did you, Isaiah? Sorry, I was getting confuzzled.
Sorry, my fire alarm is going off in my town, and it's this terrible, awful, screeching blowhorn sound. Using this optional rule, you can forgo any of that. You can take each feat only once, unless the feat description says otherwise.
Okay, so then you can only take it once.
Yeah, I suppose, but that one feels kind of stupid that you can only take once if you can take more than one fighting style.
Yeah.
Like, if I was going to run that, I would just say fuck that, because that's dumb, right? Like, you're losing your ASI to take a feat. Yeah. Like, I don't see why that would be so busted.
But you also have to remember that, and this is something we talked about last episode, feats are optional rules. Whenever they make something for 5e, they don't. I think now they're starting to incorporate it where feats aren't optional anymore.
That is kind of the problem,
normally they go back to player handbook. Feats are optional, so therefore, like, we don't do that.
So my thing with the whole, all right, here's my thing. So Matt, I don't agree with you. Isaiah, I partially disagree with you. My whole thing is a little less mechanical and more about feeling. The reason I say that all fighters should have Battlemaster maneuvers and that you should just nix the Battlemaster is because I feel like the idea of fighting techniques and maneuvers is so quintessential to the concept of a fighter. Like, it's so baked into the DNA of the fiction of playing a fighter that I want the mechanic to reinforce the fiction. So I think all fighters should have access to maneuvers, because it doesn't matter. To me, it shouldn't matter if you're a Rune Knight or an Eldritch Knight or a Psy Warrior or a Gunslinger or a Samurai. All of them should still be using good techniques to, like, get one up on their opponent, you know? Fucking sweep the leg, like pommel strike a motherfucker, like stun someone, you know, feinting maneuvers, like all of that stuff feels like it's just quintessential to the concept. And I don't like tying it to only one subclass and saying the other fighters don't get to do it. Now, granted, you can take the feat, so you can dip into it a little bit, and then you could potentially, rules as written, have 3 maneuvers on any fighter, right? Because you could take the martial adept feat, and you could take the fighting style, which is superior technique, which gives you another one. So you can do it a little bit, but I think they should just open the floodgates. Everyone should get maneuvers, because it just feels cool and fun, and it just feels like that should be what a fighter is to me.
It does, but my only issue with that then, which is why I brought up, you switch out Action Surge, you get 2 of them, there you go. If you want more, actually play a Battlemaster. I feel like, and it defeats the whole purpose of 5e being streamlined and easy to play. If you want me to play a Rune Knight and remember all my shit, and then also have maneuvers on top of that, I think you're going to get a lot of players, like, confused.
I honestly do not think you will.
I don't either.
And the reason why I think that is because spellcasters exist.
Yes.
And if they really wanted to streamline spells, you wouldn't have things like prepared spells or a spell book. You would have it like the sorcerer, where it's like, okay, cool, you pick this spell, this is the spell you get for this level, that's all you get. But the fact that things like cleric and druid exist and artificer sort of defy that intrinsically. And I really don't think you'd be confusing many people with it.
It's funny, that's not even where I was going to go with it, but you also have a point there. My argument was going to be, well, actually, my argument's twofold. First off, this whole idea that we need to have a brain dead class so that your 8-year-old brother can play at the table is, I think, a weird fallacy that people think is something that they need and or want, but I don't think is really necessary. Like, it just doesn't. It's one of those things. Okay, I'm gonna pull a comparison here because I think this will help.
I just want to clarify real quick.
Yes,
I said streamline and easy to play. Nowhere was I saying the class is brain dead or anything like that.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah. I'm being a little harsh, but yes, I'm being a little harsh. But it's because it's because that whole argument frustrates me, and I'm gonna get into this because I think this comparison will be helpful. So, talking about another media that I love a lot, shifting over from tabletop RPGs and shifting over into video games. Fighting games have this exact same problem. A lot of anyone who plays fighting games and is into the genre, which it's like one of my favorite genres as far as video games go. Recent fighting games, when I say recent, last maybe 5 years or so, have been doing this thing where they keep simplifying the mechanics of the game. They give you less combo options, they're giving characters less special moves, they're making the game more grounded, they're removing hard maneuvers like instant air dashing. If you play fighters, you'll know what that means. They're removing tricky things to do like pretzel motions aren't in fighting games anymore, although granted I think pretzel motions are dumb, so that one can go, but you know, they're taking all of these things away that made fighting games hard to play, you know? And the intention, the reason they're doing it is they think it will get more players into their games, right? They're like, if we lower the barrier to entry, more players who are not big fighting game players, like people who don't play them a lot, maybe they're interested in the newest Mortal Kombat, but they don't play them a lot, they will be willing to buy the game because we simplified it. And then because we simplified it, these new players will be able to learn the game easier, and they'll have a better time playing higher skilled players because they'll have a chance and they won't just get bodied in the corner. Hey, guess what happened? None of that happened. What instead has been happening is the games get really simplified. So the people who are really good at the game get better at the game really, really fast. And the people who are not so good at the game learn how to play the game. And then they get pub stomped even harder than they were before. And then you know what happens? They quit playing anyway. And they're not invested in the game because there's not a lot for them to learn. They're not interested. They're just getting pub stomped and crushed. And they just like, what's the point? So it's not working.
I feel like there's a part of me that like I can see where you're coming from with that, but I don't think that's really good because that's a lot of PvP. It's a lot of player versus player.
Hold on.
Yep.
This is true. You're right. Hold on. There's more. Yes.
All right.
So yes, you're right. The PvP aspect, that does change it a little bit. However, even if you take away the PvP aspect, people are still not playing. What's happening is people will buy these new fighting games. And I'm not going to call out any specific games here, but if you play fighting games, you'll know the more recent ones I'm talking about. People will get these games and they'll be like, oh, this is way easier for me to learn. That's cool. And then they'll learn it and then they'll play for a couple of days and then they'll realize there's nothing more for them to learn. There's no skill for them to grow in because when a new player comes to a fighting game, the things that they think, I know this is a long-winded analogy. I will come back to fighters, I promise. When players who are not familiar with the genre look at fighting games, they think to themselves, oh, the learning curve, the thing that I have to learn to get good at is big, flashy, long combos. That's like the number one thing new players think about. What new players don't understand, because it takes a long time for you to understand these types of things, is all of the little nuances underpinning the flashy combos. There's all these little concepts about footsies and spacing and frame data and all this other stuff that is not immediately apparent. So when you dumb the fighting game down, you strip away a lot of the combos, you strip away a lot of the special abilities, the player who's not that invested in the genre but is maybe a little interested, they learn the special moves, they learn the basic combos, and then they say to themselves, I have nothing more to learn here, because the more advanced stuff is not immediately obvious to them. So they stop playing. And this is what keeps happening over and over again, is people just stop playing after a few days. So to bring it back to D&D, the comparison here is that Wizard says, okay, we need to make the fighter more simple so that we need to make the fighter the simplified class so that if someone doesn't want to have a high learning curve, they can play this class. The problem is, someone plays fighter, they play it for a little bit, they've played 5 sessions, they realize, oh, there's not really much for me to learn or grow or get better at here. I know how to play my class within 5 to 10 sessions. I'm not interested in this class anymore because there's no nuance for me to get into. And so they're not interested, and they may end up not wanting to play the game, period, or they swap classes, which is, I mean, that's a whole other thing, but they don't see anywhere to grow. So what I think you should do instead is have all of that stuff there, put things like maneuvers in there to add to the complexity, give you something to learn how to utilize more. And then if you don't want to use them at first, you don't have to, you know?
So
you don't have to go into that realm. You don't have to go into the crazy hard shit right away. You don't need to learn a 45 hit combo in the first hour of playing Street Fighter. You learn a solid 5-hit combo. You know what I mean?
Right, but the big thing, and this is why I really disagree with you, is 5V's entirety is waving in the face of that. It is thriving. The fan base is getting bigger. The company is getting even more bigger every year. Fighter is still the most played class in D&D to this day.
Here's the thing.
It is waving in the face of that. And
I don't think Fighter is most played class because it's the most simple class.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's the reason, but...
Well, that's what we're talking about. Here's my thing, Matt. Yes, you're right that 5e is doing very well, and part of 5e's whole design philosophy was simplifying. I think 5e, the system, has already done enough simplifying itself. You don't need to further simplify by making the fighter class incredibly basic. I don't think it needed to be even further simple. That's where I have a problem. I think the system itself was already in that good spot. And then Fighter took it an even further level to the point where now it just feels kind of like bleh for me. I should specify for me. Oh, and also as a small side note, if you want to have the really simple, easy to play basic class, I think it should be Barbarian. Just saying. I think Barbarian should be the basic class.
I actually do agree with you on that front, but it is worth noting that tanking is not as easy as it seems, and Barbarian is, as much as I hate to admit it, it's a tank class. It's not a DPS class.
You're there to soak up damage. Have to be though. You don't have to. You don't have to.
Except most of its subclasses benefit walking up front and taking damage.
Yeah, but Isaiah, here's the thing: there is no holy trinity in D&D. Like, yeah, you're the beefiest, but you're not literally, like, you don't have taunt, you don't have gather round me aggro stuff, like
yes,
you're just
you do.
the beefy. I mean, you do a little bit.
Absolutely do.
Some of the subclasses do, but you don't have to be the tank in the traditional sense.
Necessarily need the holy trinity to be a dedicated tank. Like rage is classic damage mitigation. Yes, you get extra attacks, sure, but you also get faster movement to do things like get close, get in.
Right, but
you have gap closers.
But none of those are tank. Like, damage mitigation is not intrinsically a tank thing. It's just damage mitigation. If you don't pair it with some sort of ability, because like it doesn't, you could have all the damage mitigation in the world. If all of the enemies just target the wizard anyway, it doesn't matter how much damage you're mitigating. If you don't have a way to force the enemies onto you, then you're not really tanking. You're just a big meat boy.
You do though. You absolutely have reasons to stop someone from not targeting somebody else.
Such as
reckless attack. You are actively providing the enemy a bonus or a boon to hit you because they are going to have advantage. They are going to try to aim for you, or you are going to keep walloping them with advantage, which gives you a higher chance for brutal criticals, which puts the enemy in more danger, which gives the enemy more of a reason to hit you.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. I feel like stuff like the fighter's intercept or the armor artificers like Thunder Gauntlet stuff, that's way more like punch me, I'm the tank type energy.
And to your answer, the barbarian also has that exact ability with its ancestral guardian.
Yeah, some of the barbarian subclasses do, but I'm saying it doesn't it's not 100% that.
You also have the relentless rage, which lets you get back up. I'm the tank. I was knocked down. You're not knocking me down because I'm the tank and I'm going to get back up.
Yeah, I guess.
You also have things like persistent rage, which keeps your damage mitigation up no matter what, unless you fall unconscious.
But what does any of this have to do with the barbarian not being the simple class?
Because tanking can be difficult. It's not particularly easy. Like, it could be easy in other games, but tanking in 5e can be difficult because you need a good balance between your AC, your HP. You need decent enough saving throws and or skills to support them. You need to understand how to like properly use your rage and the rage conjoined abilities if you want to tank as best as you can. That's why like Django feels like an MMO, right? Because I have to balance my shield with my heavy armor master, with using my homunculus to attack, using my shield as a reaction. There is like actual thought that needs to go into playing that tank to tank as well as I do.
And to be fair, most of the time when I hear from both players and then reading online, when most people want to play a tank in D&D, they choose Paladin.
Yeah, I mean,
over the Barbarian.
Which is, that is because of media, right? Like, that's because people assume the Paladin is supposed to be the tank, because in a lot of fictional media, the Paladin often is the tank. The idea of the righteous protector, the crusader type, right? A lot of the time people are picking Paladin because they don't necessarily understand the mechanics of the game, and they assume, oh, the Paladin, the guy who protects the weak, is going to be the tank class, and they I mean, you can kind of you can
tank as a Paladin in 5e. I've seen it. It's nuts.
You can build yourself in that direction, but I think it is true to say that the Barbarian is better at it intrinsically.
Yeah, I would argue that Paladin is a support DPS, because their whole thing, their sauce, right, is that smite. And yeah, they have auras, but the auras support you, right? They make you better at your saving throws. But a Paladin's job is to have a big shield and a big sword, and they're going to come up and smash you upside the fucking head with it while screaming Deus Vult.
Yeah. Anyway.
Now, to combat what you were saying, Josh, because I have something to say about your earlier point.
Which one?
The fighting game point.
Okay.
Which is that no matter how simple the class is, you are going to need a incredibly expanded understanding of playing that class before you learn that class. 5 sessions to me is not enough to learn a class. You can have a feel for a class, but you cannot learn a class in 5 sessions.
See,
you can't
that's
learn it in 20 sessions.
See, but that's what I'm saying. Fighter is so basic, I almost feel like you kind of can. Maybe 5's an over exaggeration, but I feel like you can learn and understand what Fighter's deal is very quickly compared to other classes.
Yes, you can get a handle for it, but I think this leads back into when I said that fighters have almost unlimited versatility, which is that you are not going to have a full understanding of fighter unless you have several ASI worth of feats under your belt. Because if you build your fighter to be a tank, you can give them things like resilient, you can give them things like shield master, heavy armor master, and you have completely changed the way that class will feel now.
Okay, so yes, if so,
yes, this is assuming that you have feats in your game. If they're just ASIs,
right.
Yes,
See, that's the thing, right? Is assuming we're not dealing with feats, because Wizards claims we did not design the game with feats as a primary function, right? So, okay, assuming that part, then looking at just like ignoring feats and looking at, this is kind of going back to what you're saying about fighter being almost kind of an incomplete class, right? If you look at just its list of class features, there's not a lot going on. That's what I'm talking about. It is true that if you do look at the ASI thing as, oh, they're supposed to be the feat class, then yes, that does change things up a bit. But under the assumption that that's not the initial idea, it's a different ball game. Now, everyone does tend to play with feats, so I suppose we should consider feats from this point and just go from there.
Yeah.
But so I just want to yeah, it's just my big beef at the end of the day is I want fighter to feel like a Link or a Trevor, and if you push feats to the side for a second, a lot of the fighter just feels like guy who good at hit with stick, sharp pointy stick, but
yeah,
stick.
I mean, I think the issue that I have, and I think this is to expand upon Matt, and I know you wanted to say something, but I want to say this real quick. Fighter feels like a controller with no control. And what I mean is that, to me, because you have so much versatility as a fighter, you are sort of intrinsically a controller, right? You control different aspects of the fight, whether it's your damage, your defense, your actual control of the field, the characters on the field, the flow of the battle, specifically when it comes to action economy. But all you really have genuine control of is action economy.
Yeah.
And it's not a whole lot of control. Because if you want, right, and I know that dual wielding is not necessarily meta, but if you want, you're at level 20, you can swing 9 times.
Right.
And if you take a feat, or if you have maxed out ability scores, you're doing a lot. Like, not a whole lot of damage, but you're doing a lot.
Yes, but like, are you doing a lot though, or are you just saying I attack a lot of times and just making attack rolls over and over again?
No, I think you're literally you're doing both. Because if you have 9 attacks, you can potentially completely counter a surrounded scenario, right? If you can keep swinging, the enemies you're either going to cut a few of them down and force the enemy's formation to regroup, or to get them to back off, or to potentially rescue a downed player. Like, you are able to do a lot with 9 attacks. That's more than just I whack 9 times. You can with 9 attacks, you can completely change the flow of a battle.
I mean, you can, I suppose. The problem is I don't feel like it's very fun to just say I attack over and over and over and over again. And saying I attack too many times is why a lot of people tend to get bored with 5e combat a lot of the time. So it's
yeah, look, I'm not arguing that necessarily. All I'm saying is just because your thing is I attack does not necessarily mean that you understand the class.
Well, if attacking is the only thing you can do, then you kind of do understand the class, because you're not doing that much, you know?
No, I don't think it is. Just because that's the main thing of your class does not mean that is how your class potentially works, right? If everyone thought Wizard is about casting Fireball over and over again, and they didn't think about how all the other utility spells can have basically limitless potential, that's not really the class's fault. Just because the Wizard is good at being doing big dick damage does not mean that that's the only thing that it's capable of doing.
Right, the Wizard has those utility spells as an option. I I feel like a lot of the time fighter is lacking in the.
Well, that's because it's two completely different roles. Like a wizard can be the damage dealer, a wizard can be a controller.
Right. Yeah.
Fighter, like they can do that stuff as well, but the fighter's main thing is it's supposed to break the action economy. It's supposed to attack 9 times. It's supposed to have, you can do the maneuvers or critting on an 18, or I'm trying to think, what's the rune knight? You activate the you
Rune
activate a
Knight is-
rune and fire
yeah.
chains appear, right?
Yeah, there's like fire chains and there's like a wall, and yeah, Rune Knight gives you like some pretty interesting stuff, which is why I like Rune Knight, because I like that you do have some more options.
And I think kind of what it I don't know, Isaiah, exactly this is what you're going for, but this is kind of like my big thing is if you can't make the fighter again, maybe the easiest class in the game to play, maybe the most basic. If you can't make the I attack interesting, that's kind of on you. That's not on the class. If you're playing, let's say like average Joe, the basic fighter with a sword, either you through describing or how you're playing the character, you can make anything interesting. It's not the class's fault that you're just like, I attack, beep,
all right,
I attack.
That is sort of
boop.
what I was saying, but I was trying to be a little more tactful about it.
Sorry,
Okay,
I
here's
know.
the thing.
I'm just kind of going like direct at this point.
Okay, yes, sure. You can make anything interesting, but here's the thing, Matt. If you have 3 friends with you that all get along really well, you could potentially make a game where all you do is roll a single D6 interesting. Yeah, you can do extra work. The problem I have is, and I've said this about games in general and mechanics in general. I like to look at the mechanics as they are on their own before anyone gets their fingers on them and say, without me doing any extra work, how does it look? How does it feel? What is it interesting? Am I intrigued? Am I intrigued by this from simply reading off the abilities? And for a lot of fighter subclasses and the fighter general, I am not intrigued when I just read what it is able to do. And also as kind of an addendum to that point, yeah, you could make the argument, it's on you for not making your fighter interesting. However, if you try to describe a bunch of stuff and your GM just doesn't let you be cool or interesting, then it might not necessarily be on you, because that is a factor. But yeah, I don't like to use the argument of just make it better yourself, because then you can use that argument for everything, and then there's no point in talking about how any class is designed, because you could just be like, fix it yourself. Yeah, of course you can fix it yourself. That's not the point.
Well,
so I'm not.
The point is, I want a better foundation, and I don't particularly like the foundation I'm working with here.
Yeah, so I understand that, and what I mean when I say is it's sort of on you, I don't necessarily mean describe it in a cool way, but I mean have a better understanding of because this is we're all assuming that this is combat. You need to have a better understanding of the combat scenario to do better with fighter, right? If you have a better understanding of how you can use things like grappling and attacks of opportunity and tripping and all of those other things that you can do with the attack action, then you are in a better place to understand fighter. If you think that all you can do is whack and that's just it's not true. Because this is where I go in to say that fighter is a controller with very little control. You can do those things and they will work. If removing someone's ability to move to you might not mean much, and as a whole potentially could also not mean much, because moving is not something that a lot of people think about in combat. But I have seen
doesn't happen a lot.
And the reason why I think that is that people are on the whole not thinking about how to position themselves. They're not thinking about it as a tactician, right? You're not thinking about combat formations. It's most 5e combat is a brawl, right? It's a brawl with icons.
Yeah, I think the problem is the mechanics there's not a lot in the mechanics that really enforces a lot of moving. I will say, until you start to get to some higher level spell casting, Then there are quite a few spells that start to really force and encourage a lot of moving around. So maybe this is more of a problem at lower levels, which, I mean, that's not surprising. A lot of people say the game is boring at lower levels and fun at higher levels. So, you know, maybe there's some of that going on.
Like kind of a sidebar thing. Like, do you guys think, because like the monk gets extra movement when they level up, the barbarian gets, I think, like 10 feet or 15 feet at certain levels. Do you think the fighter should have something like that too, where it's like they get more movement as they higher up because they're more athletic or whatever? Because like thinking about it, that makes sense to me for like that higher level movement stuff, where it's like you have the fight, you know, the guy running across the battlefield to get to his friend to, you know, beat the skeleton.
I would argue that they do. I would argue that they do have extra movement. They have action surge.
Okay.
I think action surge is kind of genius. Because
wait, can you move with? Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can dash with action surge.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it might be interesting. I think maybe a fighter subclass that gets intrinsically extra movement might be interesting. But yeah, I don't know if the whole class needs it, because that is true. Action surge kind of covers it.
Because like I think about it this way, and this kind of goes into my know how to understand the flow of combat. If the fight is sort of scattered, think about like, you know, the Battle of Mordor, right? And there's like 5 or 6 of your allies scattered across the fight, and there's enemies sort of all over the place. And you're a fighter, and you've got your level 20 fighters. So you've got 2 action surges. You can, and let's assume that you have plate mail and a shield, right? Which like you're kind of statted out to be a beefy boy. You use an action surge to take the dodge action, and then you use your other action surge to get more attacks. And you can then at that point just weave your way through all of the enemies, doing chip damage and or grappling one of them to get them to leave your allies alone.
Yeah,
I mean, also giving flanking to those allies.
If you're using flanking.
But again, it's one of those things where like, people will disagree with me. Internet, you will disagree. Yeah. You're wrong. Flanking should be in the game. Maybe it's too powerful the way that it is, but it should be in the game.
Yeah, so a lot of people do the +2 method instead, or that. I mean, honestly, in my game,
I'm going to be real.
But okay, here's the thing. I don't think the problem is necessarily like, yeah, the +2 is one way to kind of balance it down a little, and I use the +2 in my game, but I don't think the problem so much is that flanking is inherently really powerful. I think the problem is that flanking is just really easy to do, and it kind of encourages this weird conga line scenario. So I think the way to make flanking work is, if you want it to be powerful, like giving advantage, and advantage is roughly a +5, you need to have it. There needs to be a little bit more going on than just if you're on the opposite side of an enemy, then you're flanking. End of discussion. I don't know what I would make the mechanic or what it would be, but I think you need to add a little bit to flanking. I think that's the problem with it, is it's too basic and too easy to just do the conga line of death.
Yeah, which is honestly in my next game, I haven't told my players this, but I'm not going to use any kind of flanking rules. I think I'm going to try it to just see like what happens and how they themselves have to gain advantage.
So rewind to what I said 2 minutes ago. You're wrong. But
I mean, well, here's the thing.
I disagree.
This is the problem.
Right.
This is the problem. Flanking encourages more moving around, right? And I think that's why Isaiah is saying it should be in there, is because it encourages a little bit more tactical thinking. It encourages moving around. It encourages some more like interesting stuff going on. But yeah, as it is right now, it doesn't. It needs attention. It's too simple as it is. An advantage is too strong for simply moving 5 feet to the left and being on the other side of the enemy.
And I just want to counter with, as someone who used flanking from 1 to 20, that extra bit of movement is 1 round. It's like, oh yeah, flanking encourages people moving around the map for 1 more round.
Right.
It's not, and then they sit in that one spot and flank unless the monster moves or whatever. So it's
right. But see, that's the thing. So you have to think about there's potential downstream ramifications to it though too, right? Like, okay, so there's one extra round where the players move into position. Now the monster's like, oh, I'm getting flanked, I gotta get the shit out of here. Now the monster moves. Now the player's like, all right, now we gotta chase him down. Particularly when you're dealing with high levels where enemies can do shit like teleport and misty step out of the way, or like have abilities so that they can not get attack of opportunity and stuff like that, right? Like there's potential downstream ramifications depending on how it goes. If it's a dragon, the dragon's going to be like, LOL, flying upward, stuff like that. And also, again, if there was a little more to it, then it wouldn't necessarily just be one extra round of movement, Again, I think the crux is it's too basic.
Yeah, right. I mean, I agree. And also, so I actually, again, this is where I have something to say to each of you. Matt, what would you say to making flanking like either a bonus action, or you use one of your attacks on your action to flank, right? To set up a like flank stance as opposed to making it a whole action. Because at that point, it's just the help action at 10 feet, which is not much.
Right. Maybe. I mean, the only thing is, again, and this is where you and I, Isaiah, disagree on stuff. As a dungeon master, there are some stuff in the game I'd rather just remove than have to like tweak and work on to make it fit my game. I'd rather just remove it and call it a day, because my game will still run and it will run fine without it.
So yes, I think removing it is valid, but my issue is that I would always prefer to see how to make things work. Right? Because like I don't necessarily like, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, but I don't really like dumbing down the game by just removing things wholesale. Because if it adds something interesting to the game, I don't want it just gone. Right, I want to still be able to take advantage of it. Also, if you just start taking the axe to all the mechanics you don't like, you're going to end up in a scenario where eventually there's like not a lot left, Like you don't want to start chopping. Right. You don't want to chop so much meat you get into a skeleton situation, Yeah.
No, true.
I think it's worth noting that I've at this point I've run a game for 2 years and it's only level 1 to 10. I've got 2 rogues in the party, so they're always looking for ways to get sneak attack off, or 2 rogue equivalents. I'm not going to do the whole breakdown this episode. And so I know very, very well how powerful flanking can be, believe me, especially because Hellscape's damage numbers, like I always say, are fucking doubled basically. But that's where, I have to take control of the combat in the sense of I will make my enemies move a lot. I don't always do it because sometimes I just don't think that it would make sense for an enemy to understand their own situation. But in any situation where the enemy is smart enough to know I shouldn't get surrounded, then they're always going to move out of the way. And they might even take attacks of opportunity to do so because they're enemies and they usually have the health to withstand it. And if not, they've got the ability to clap back just as hard, right? Yeah. Like the amount of movement I think is partially up to the GM because, and I've tried this.
It is. Yeah.
Once the enemies roll up on your party in formation, the players go, oh, they're organized. We're not organized. We need to get organized. And then they'll start thinking about things like putting their ranged fighters towards the back and supporting them with a tank, and then having someone from far away to act as a distraction, or throwing AoEs in there to knock the formation apart. Movement can matter, and I've sort of done this out of spite because I know how many times people are like, movement doesn't matter. I'm like, it can matter if you do it right. And I'm not saying that I'm necessarily doing it right, but I'm trying.
I think the thing that's interesting about all this, coming back to Fighter, is a lot of the stuff Isaiah is talking about, a lot of it are optional rules that if you're utilizing those optional rules, the fighter suddenly becomes more interesting. But if you take those optional rules away, you lose a lot of that, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm not as interesting anymore. A good example being Isaiah mentioned at one point, oh, you can try and trip the enemy. That's an optional rule. That's not a rule as written, technically. The idea of tripping enemies. So I think it's kind of funny, flanking, which is another thing that the fighter could potentially leverage to feel cooler, right? Like, I'm going to use my action surge to get into the flanking position and everything. Again, optional rule. Feats, optional rule, right? Like, there's a lot of that. There's optional rules in the DMG for shoving through enemies so you can move through their square. All of that, you know, there's another optional rule to disarming enemies. But again, all of it optional, and all of it, if you take it out of the game, the wizard goes, LOL, who cares? And the fighter goes, oh, I could have used that. Right? Which is like, huh, that's an interesting thing to think about. I don't really know what, like, I don't know if, I don't necessarily have a point there, but I it's interesting to be like, oh, a lot of the things that could potentially make fighter more fun to play are optional rules that a lot of people forget about, ignore, don't use, whatever it might be, with the exception of feats, of course, which gets used most of the time. And I think that's also why Battlemaster maneuvers feel especially important to me, because if you say, well, we're not going to use the tripping optional rule, you say, okay, that's fine, I can use the trip attack from the Battlemaster, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a weird design, like, circular logic thing. Also, as a, just to comment on a thing you said before, Isaiah, agreed, action surge is super genius. I love that action surge is almost, if not the only one of the only abilities in the entire game that you get to look your GM in the face and go, fuck yo, action economy, bitch, I do what I want.
I'm the dungeon master now.
Yeah, it's like the only ability in the game that lets you do it. And I love that, because you'll see it sometimes with like new DMs or new players who they'll go to use action surge and they'll be like, is this a bonus action? Or is this what is this? And you go, no, my child, you just get to do it. Be free. Live free, child. And then they go, what? That's dope. And you're like, yes, sir. Yes, it is. So yeah, action surge is great. That's definitely, actually, not even probably, that is my favorite thing about fighter is action surge, because it's such a weird ability in relation to everything else in the game.
Mm.
And I'm always going to harp on about this. Action surge is a mechanic that reinforces the fiction of being a fighter, because you're so good at fighting, you get to just fight more than everyone.
So you know what's really funny? You know what I noticed, I think, Josh? Our roles have swapped this episode.
Oh.
Where you are very much like, but it's the feeling, and I'm more like, no, it's the mechanics. You know what I mean? I just think it's kind of fascinating that, like,
well,
this is the one episode where I'm like, this is it. This is where I shine.
The mechanics thing for me is always at the end of the day about reinforcing the fiction that they're supposed to represent. And those are the mechanics I like the best, you know, is when if I read the little paragraph at the start of a subclass, right? And it's like, I'm trying to think of something on the fly, you know, Battlemaster, it's like, oh, you're a superior tactician with lots of skilled techniques, and like you're a master at controlling the battlefield. And then I see all the Battlemaster maneuvers. I get excited because I'm like, yes, you told me about a cool fiction, and then you gave me cool mechanics that back that fiction up. Big fan. If I look at Arcane Archer and it's like, oh, you're a mystical magical fueled archer that like imbues spells into your arrows. Sick. Looks at mechanics. Oh, hey, I actually do get to do that. Good. And this is where I mention Arcane Archer is cool. Everybody stop hating on it so much. I know it sucks that its shots are a little limited, but it's cool. The shots are really cool.
Well, you know, I feel like, you know what would make Arcane Archer better?
Yes.
If it had maneuvers.
No, I don't think so. No, I think
you just need
more pew-pews.
Yeah, you just give it, you can either tie the thing to proficiency bonus like everything else, or just be like, you have access to all your arrows, but you can only do it a certain amount of times a day.
Oh, yes.
And that way your options are like, you know, it's like, I could do any of the arrows.
That's the other problem.
Any time?
Yeah, you have to pick the arrows out. Yeah. That's another problem. This is something, when we get around to Sorcerer, this one's going to come up a lot, but yeah, what is the harm in just letting him pick all of those arrows and saying you just get to use whichever one at the time of firing, you know? And and it is also worth pointing out that the 2 shots that you get per you know, whatever, do come back on a short rest, not just a long. So that is worth noting too.
Yeah.
They're kind of Warlockian in that sense.
I'm pretty sure Battlemaster also gets their stuff back on short.
They do. Yes.
So you know what's funny? I've thought about this. I've thought about this a lot. I have 2 small thoughts.
You might be about to say what I was going to say, so go ahead.
Battlemaster should just get all the maneuvers.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That's exactly
oh my god, both you just make out already. Jeez.
No, literally, that's exactly where I was going with this. Continue, Isaiah. Go ahead.
Because it doesn't change a whole lot, and anyone who's like, but they get to prepared casters, eat my whole ass. Prepared casters exist.
Yep.
But also, who in their right mind said, Battlemaster, 3 maneuvers. Most classes at that level, 3 thing. It's the beautiful number, 3. Why did Arcane Archer, they were like, 2?
2? Yes, I will agree with you there. Why is it 2 and not 3? That does bug me that they went with 2, but
yeah, I hate that.
It's such a weird number to be like, no, you get 2. You're a poo-poo head. It's like, what?
I had a separate question to pose to you, because I feel like this should be different, and I feel like this might be blasphemy. I feel like you should be able to flank at range. You know what I mean? I think there should be some drawbacks to it, right? Because, you know, if you're gonna shoot someone in the back with an arrow or a gun, they're not gonna see you coming, right? It's gonna be easier for you to shoot them in the back. But I feel like maybe there should be a built-in, like, if you natural 1, you fumble and shoot your ally, or you can, like, you know, roll again to see if you shoot your ally. Because I don't think it's fair that your 30 AC Blade Singer wizard gets shot on a natural 1 when like even the Tarrasque can't hit them. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of goofy personally. But maybe like roll again and see if it hits, and if it just natural 1s twice, then maybe you suffer like weapon damage, or the weapon just like the shot just goes far and nothing happens. Because I will agree, I'm not going to be that guy where it's like you'll never hit your ally. That's not true. Like, even the best person on the planet in the middle of a heated situation can fail, and like I argue that the other side with skill checks, but combat is like the ultimate. Things are kind of stressful at the moment.
Right.
I think you should be able to flank at range, assuming that there are more abilities to support and potentially punish for it.
I think so. That's kind of a tricky one. I think you should be able to do some sort of assistance at range. Like, there should be some kind of mechanic for it. I don't know if I would straight up go with flanking necessarily. I don't know.
Also, there's the new rogue thing where it was aim. Use a bonus action to like not move and aim, and then you get advantage. So, like, if you want to do like what if I was an arcane archer with a 2-level dip in rogue? It's like, then there you go.
Yeah, I like that. I like that they are sort of acknowledging that.
Yeah.
But to me, that doesn't feel intrinsically roguish. Right? There's no sniper rogue, but there's a sniper fighter. Or there was. It was sharpshooter. It was UA.
Yeah. Well, arcane archer's kind of the sniper fighter.
Yeah. I feel like that would make more sense for fighter or a generic thing that people can do. Because I feel like ranger should potentially be able to do that too, right? Like,
I think it's more of a ranger thing.
I feel like that should just be a thing. I think that should just be a general bonus action thing that you can do, which would be cool because it would give everyone a bonus action.
Hey, it's funny, Star Wars did that.
It did, yes, actually.
Everyone could aim. Yeah.
And you could stack your aims, which is cool.
You could. Yeah, I mean, the flanking at range thing, it would need some sort of attention, which you already said it. It couldn't just be as is. It would need some work, but I'm not 100% against the idea, I guess.
What do you think, Matt?
I don't know. I'm kind of like 50-50. The only reason is it doesn't make, like, I get it narratively, it makes sense. Is like if a guy isn't noticing me and I shoot him from afar, I should be able to get some sort of flanking if he's like dealing with my buddy.
Yeah.
But at the same point in time, and this is kind of going back to where I'm thinking of taking out flanking next time I run a campaign or whatever, there are other ways in the game for people to get get advantage through, you know, via spells or what have you, or character ability, class abilities, subclass abilities. And that's where I feel like, unless you are a rogue, you're doing the Legolas thing of you're jumping around with a bow fighter, shooting arrows all over the place, and you don't think the orc next to you is going to be like, oh god, where did that guy come from? No, because you weren't hiding. You're being the fighter bowman. So I don't know. There's a part of me it's like, yeah, I can see it, but also there's another part of me it's like, well, if we break it down to just bow fighter, no. Bow ranger, maybe. Bow rogue, sure. I don't know.
So yeah, I mean,
that's why I'm like,
I think you're sort of seeing, like, you're thinking of things like specifically you've got a bowman who's running around like a psycho, but if you've got someone perched up in a tree 200 feet away and they're locking shots off, it's like, yeah, you might know where that guy is, but if that person's ally is specifically forcing your back to that bowman and there's not much you can do about it, right? Because if you turn around and head towards the bowman, that guy's buddy's going to stab you in the back, right? So you can sort of force that situation. I wanted to just throw that one thing in. But you're saying
no, that's yeah.
I also forgot that the scout rogue exists. I completely forgot about that class.
Yeah, scout was cool.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I think Joe played it when he and I were in a one shot together. But like he did the thing where it's like, all right, I got my crossbow. I go prone, I do the thing, I shoot, I get advantage, and I'm just like, Jesus. He's like from 200 feet away, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, we're nowhere near the enemy. What are you doing? He's just like, it's okay. I just killed 3 of them. We're fine. I did it.
I just want to, since we're on the bow thing, and I was talking about arcane archer, and how I really like the idea of magical archers. That's why I gravitate to it. But I just want to read this ability because I think it's worded really funny and it just stood out to me, and I don't know, I feel like I had to bring it up. Magic arrow. At 7th level, you gain the ability to infuse arrows with magic. Whenever you fire a non-magical arrow from a short bow or longbow, you can make it magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. The magic fades from the arrow immediately after it hits or misses the target. Isn't it a little weird that it says you like choose to make the arrow magical as opposed to just saying your arrow shots are magical now? Like, why is it so specific? Isn't that a little funky?
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there.
Right? Like, why did you add that? Because like for monk, it's like, cool, your fists are now magical. Have fun, right? Like, there's no extra stipulation.
You know what I thought was kind of cool is they specifically talk about in the flavor of each shot that you're using a different school of magic.
Yes,
which I think is super fucking cool. And I guess
that was a cool one.
I guess that's why that's their justification as to why you don't get them all, right? Is you had to study them.
Get the fuck out of here.
I agree. I completely fucking agree. But almost nowhere across the board do they ever talk about the specific schools of magic. So maybe that was their justification as to why you have to pick. Which maybe they should go harder on the schools of magic because they're fucking cool, and you know, it really sucks that divination's trash, but just make more divination spells.
Divination's fun though.
Yeah, it's got like a third of the spell list.
Yeah, like divination's one of those ones where it's really flavorful but not mechanically super amazing. Oh, I noted another interesting little thing, and this is a bit of backtracking, but it's, I think, a good point on fighter. So when I was looking over the subclasses, when I was, rereading them, and I went and read through each one, I noticed that all of the abilities that Battlemaster gets, like I said before, the only thing Battlemaster gets is maneuvers, with the exception of that one weird ability at level 7. And I was wondering, you think that's an indicator for the fact that it wasn't a subclass initially, and then they turned it into a subclass?
No, I think champion fighter is more. Again, I'm gonna harp on the champion fighter. I think more of an example than Battlemaster, because
no, again, hold on, Matt, I think you misunderstand. Hold on, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm talking about back in the day when they were playtesting, I'm pretty sure I heard people say Battlemaster wasn't a subclass. All the fighters did get maneuvers. And I think
No, I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure that was I mean, I'm not 100%, I haven't looked into it, but I feel like that's a thing I've heard people say. And I feel like the fact that the only thing that Battlemaster abilities gets is more maneuvers or an upgrade to your die for your maneuvers, your superiority die, I feel like is kind of an indicator that, yes, it used to be its own thing and wasn't it didn't used to be its own thing. It wasn't a subclass, which is why it doesn't have any particularly fancy abilities or anything. It just has maneuvers because it was just part of fighter before.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I think they both. Like, I feel like it could have been both. Like, I feel like it realistically it could have been both, right? Because
both what?
It could have been that both Battlemaster and Champion may have been early build ideas for the fighter.
Oh, maybe.
Because they feel so oddly, like, because you're right, Champion is nothing but passives.
All passive.
Which is fine if you've got actives as a subclass, but not so great when the actives are the passives.
Are the subclass.
And then Battlemaster has a bunch of actives, but no passives, really.
Right. Yeah.
Except for Student of War. Because Know Your Enemy is 100% an active.
It is, and it's such a weird little, like, it feels almost a little tacked on. It's kind of funny.
No, I don't think it is. I think Battlemaster is supposed to show that, like, you have such combat knowledge that you can put these things together. I think it's funny. I think Know Your Enemy is potentially super fucking powerful if your GM is willing to, like, put up with it and isn't going to just throw you into combat constantly, right? If they give you the time. Yeah, like if you're fighting the Tarrasque and you've never seen the Tarrasque before, no one in your party knows what the Tarrasque is, and your GM is willing to let you go on the, like, Jurassic Park, we're gonna scope out the Tarrasque, you know, they're gonna let you monster hunter it, for lack of a better phrase. Right. Then Know Your Enemy is super good because it tells you immediately, like, oh, this thing's got 30 strength and like 25 dex and like 30 con, and its AC is 25 and it's got like 500
well, it doesn't give you
points.
the exact number.
No, it does.
Nope.
No. It says
the DM tells you if the
right,
creature is equal, superior, or inferior in regard to 2 of the following characteristics.
Oh, it's only 2.
Only 2.
Only two,
never mind.
yeah.
I thought it was that it was 2 for every minute.
No. Well, I guess you could. Well, you could run it that way, actually, because it doesn't say you can't do that. So you could say 2 for every minute, hypothetically. Yeah.
True enough.
Yeah, if you're talking to the guy for, like, you know, a 30-minute conversation, like the bad guy.
If you wait there for 5 minutes, I guess you could get them all. But yeah, it doesn't give you exact numbers. It says if the creature is better or worse than you.
All right, fair enough.
Which is, I mean, it's your point still kind of stands there, right? Like, it could still be a potentially good ability if your GM kind of lets it happen and doesn't just try to, like, shit on you. Another fun little thing that I noted, more fun abilities like the Rune Knight's Great Stature. I love shit like that. So, have you read that? Do you know what that one does?
Yeah, it's one that makes you size large.
No.
Oh.
That's their level 3 ability where you can become size large. No, so Great Stature.
Giant Might.
Yeah. So Great Stature, the magic of runes permanently alters you. When you gain this feature, roll 3d4. You grow a number of inches in height equal to the roll. Moreover, the extra damage you deal from your Giant's Might increases to d8. Obviously, the d8 thing, like, that's just, you know, more damage. That's cool. But I really like that it has this fun little flavorful, you grow taller because the giant magic is, like, infusing your body more. More stuff like that, please.
It's pretty sick.
Like, don't make it its own. Like, if it was only the you grow taller part, that would be fucking lame, right? Obviously, it has to come with some mechanical stuff too. But yeah, add some more flavorful stuff, like, along the way for subclasses. I love shit like that. That was just one of those ones I noticed. So I was like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I think they did for certain classes, like...
Some classes get it and some don't.
So the Undying Warlock, which is not the good, like, undead Warlock, not the good one. Yeah. I think they have it's like one of those flavorful things where it's like, what is it? You can like you can regrow body limbs.
Yeah,
and
you
stuff.
can reattach limbs.
It has nothing like mechanically like beneficial unless you like happen to get your arm bitten off or whatever by a monster. But like, that's kind of neat. And you're like, all right, I can just regrow. It's like, hey kids, want to see a magic trick?
Yeah,
cuts off your hand. And you just
that's
like,
one of those things where you're like, oh, that's a really cool fictional idea, but unfortunately, because the game doesn't have a lot of ways in which you will lose limbs or whatever, it's not going to come up that often, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, as an addition, as people tend to call them, as a ribbon ability to something else, it's fun.
oh yeah.
Another thing. All right. You want to hear me fucking complain? You want to hear me get fucking angry?
No, but okay.
I was gonna say not particularly, but you're gonna do it.
I need to talk. Looking through the fighter subclasses, I need to bring this up. Y'all know how I feel about Eldritch Knight, but in particular, Weapon Bond. It's just why Weapon Bond? Why are you so lame? Why?
I'm confused.
Wait, what?
What's your beef exactly?
Yeah, I'm yeah, what?
Okay, do you guys know what the ability Weapon Bond does?
Yeah, it's the one where you bond your weapon. You could basically like teleport the weapon back to your hand.
That's it. That's all it does, Matt.
Yeah, that's
you can teleport the weapon back to your hand, but that's the only thing you get. It doesn't do anything else.
You haven't heard some of the green tech stories of like, oh yeah, my fighter just got a +1 sword and he sold it at the market and then he teleported it back to his hand and he kept doing that in every town and we got ran out of several towns and like other nonsense like that.
Sure, if you do it like that, I guess. And it could potentially, the one place I do think Weapon Bond could be cool is if you do like a throwing weapon build, right? You could do the throw weapon, teleport back to hand. That part's fun. But just on its own, it's so like, because when I saw Weapon Bond initially, I thought it was like you bond to your weapon. You're an Eldritch Knight, so you're gonna get some sort of magical bonus wielding the weapon you're bonded to. No, it just teleports to your hand.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of magical. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it is, but it doesn't. It's not. I wanted it to be like you do 1d4 fire damage because you're bonded to your weapon and you can light it on fire, or like you're bonded to your weapon so you can use it to like magically like pierce armor, like something.
I don't know. I don't really think that's the fault of the feature. I think that you were just expecting a different thing, because I think Weapon Bond has a bunch of uses. You know, getting disarmed while walking into a building. No, you're not. You literally can't be disarmed in combat, which is, you know, doesn't come up much, but it's one of those cool things where when it does come up, you're like, that's fucking sick.
That's that problem though, is it doesn't come up that much, so it doesn't feel very fun because it comes up once in a blue moon, you know? That's the same problem with the regrowing limbs. It's like, yeah, that's cool when it comes up once in a blue moon, but it comes up so rarely that it almost kind of feels like a waste.
But like, how often do you want something like that to come up where it's like, oh no, the bad guy stole my weapon again. Yes, I'll just teleport it back to my hand. Or
not that often. No, I don't want that to come up a lot. That's why I want Weapon Bond to do something else.
Well, the other things you want it to do, unfortunately, are like spells, which the Eldritch Knight can probably just get.
What if Weapon Bond made it so your weapon was a foci?
Sure.
Mayhaps.
That's what I thought it did when I first just saw the name and saw the first part of it. I thought it was going to be, oh, you bond to your sword, so your sword becomes your magical foci. That's your focus. That's where I thought it was going. Because I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because as an Eldritch Knight, I would like to be able to have a sword and a shield and still cast spells, but as Eldritch Knight is, you have to have a sword and a wand to cast spells. You can't have a shield unless you take Warcaster down the road.
Well, I mean, okay, but so this is something I kind of I was thinking about. If we're going to be bringing in optional rules like feats, I feel like maybe I don't like the idea that some classes can sort of not hinge, but be greatly inhibited or bolstered by magic items. Making it a foci is really simple with something like Ruby of the War Mage. It's a common item.
I was gonna say,
which
yeah,
it's same thing as a arm blade for an artificer.
It is worth pointing out that Ruby came out later after, because Eldritch Knight was in the player's handbook.
It did, but I really don't consider things that came out at the beginning, because they all sort of seemed like proof of concept, really.
I know. That's what I mean. That's why
So
Weapon Bond make me sad.
Well, but like now, because I like I said, I'm really only thinking about how things feel now. Weapon Bond is not terrible, like not at all. I think you're right. The throne thing makes it really good.
That's a cool way
if you
to
want to
use it.
specialize in javelins, because it gives you a bonus action that you can consistently use.
Or if you want to make Dad of War and just, have the battle axe, or not the battle axe, but have an axe, yeet it at someone, pull it back, Kratos style.
It's a battle axe.
Well, he's saying because battle axes don't have the throne property.
Oh, I mean, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I completely understand what people were like, but this is not how it was. But I can only think of, but it's not how it is.
Yeah, no,
Like
I know.
Both,
Look,
I think both schools of thought are completely valid. I just like have a harder time seeing it from that other side because it's. I feel like a lot of the things that were implemented later were made specifically to fix things that they couldn't do. Like a lot of them. You can't rewrite Weapon Bond. I mean, I suppose you could, but you couldn't at the time.
You're saying a lot of the stuff they added to the game was the equivalent of like a video game patch system because they can't they can't gather up everyone's player's handbook and hand them out the new updated one. So instead they add items in that retroactively fix things. I see what you're saying.
Well, they do go back with erratas and stuff and like update like the player handbook from there.
Yeah, but erratas are always kind of like little small adjustments. The idea, like an errata would never rewrite the entirety of how Weapon Bond works, like that's kind of too much for an errata, at least the way they handle them currently. And also erratas, you have to know they exist. Like if you don't know there's an errata for the thing, then you're not gonna know to use it.
Right. But then in like newer updates of the player's handbook and stuff, they print it with the errata built into it. So it's not like, oh, I have this, version of the player handbook from 2014. Someone who buys it now in 2022, it's two completely different player handbooks.
Yeah, yes, but then you get into then it becomes a little then there's a bit of a fight, right? Because like then the person with the old player's handbook is like, well, why don't I get the new one? And then you're like, yeah, it's a little tricky because in a video game world, these would just be patches,
This is not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is speculation, but it's possible that the reason, this isn't speculation. We've only really seen a class get a complete rework once. And that was with Ranger because it needed it, right?
And that was a UA.
Desperately needed it.
Yeah.
And Fighter, I think people will think that Fighter is because of how versatile it is, its meta ability sort of hinges on knowledge on how to make the game work for you, right?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think Fighter needs like a massive rework. I didn't even really want to belabor the point. I just really wanted to complain about Weapon Bond because I got really frustrated that I just wanted it to be cooler than it was, I guess. I don't know. But I mean, you guys have some valid points that like maybe it was assuming too much out of it. It's just, I don't know. It was just one of those funny things. I think the Eldritch Knight is just across the board a frustration for me because the fiction I wanted from it was not at all what they gave me. So I was just like, it makes me extra mad. But it's okay because down the road they gave me Rune Knight, and that is what I wanted from the fiction of Eldritch Knight. So it's fine now, I guess.
It's funny. For me, it was just Hexblade Warlock.
or Hexblade Warlock. That's the other one that also.
For me, it's Blade Singer now.
That's another good. Basically, there's lots of better options than Rune Knight, than Eldritch Knight. Yeah, that's true. Because Blade Singer too. Although I'm not as interested in Blade Singer because if I want to play a Magic Knight, I want it to be a fighter with a little bit of magic spice added to them. I don't want it to be a wizard with a little bit of fighter spice added to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I see what you're saying. I think Blade Singer is very much not a magic knight. It is.
Yeah, it's like its own little.
Yeah, thing. like to me, Blade Singer is like
a magical swashbuckler.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always said Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, and I know Tanjiro is basically also a battle master, but like if you think about it, their abilities as actual magic and not visual representations, like that's pretty much blade singing, right? Like you're doing a thing, you're harmonizing with your weapon in a specific way. Yeah.
Anyway, that was just one of those ones I wanted to point out, just because I wrote down a couple of things that I was like, oh, these are good little. Oh, and fun thing that I really love that they're doing with a lot of new subclasses, and they're doing kind of across the board, is with the Psy Knight, or sorry, Psy Warrior.
I do the same thing, honestly.
You can so you have a certain number of uses on your abilities, but if you want, you can expend your Psy die to use the ability again. I like that. It's like how with their racial abilities, they're like, oh, if you want to use spell slots, you can use spell slots to keep casting it. Yes, that's good. More of that. Big fan of that one. Because they have their last ability lets them cast telekinesis with no components of any kind. And you can only do it once a day unless you expend psionic energy die. I'm like, oh, that's a very fun way to like balance out that whole thing.
So do you know what Psy Warrior does that I really like, that I am always pushing for?
What?
It's skills as a currency, right? You get side dice back while you're playing the game. You don't have to rest, right? If you natural 1, you'll get a side die back, or you'll get the number bumps up again. So as long as you're not blowing your entire load and burning all of them down, there are some good chances that you'll be able to lose some and then you gain some, and then you lose some and then you gain some, and it's sort of sustainable if you play your cards right.
Not exactly how it works.
What do you mean? I'm reading it right now. You
regain psionic energy dice. In addition, as a bonus action, you can regain 1, but you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Is that what you're talking about? Or did I miss it?
Well, I thought what it was that it starts as a D6, and then if you natural 20, it decreases to a D4. Or if you get like a certain thing, it decreases to a D4, and then it's gone. But if you fail, it increases to a D8.
You might be thinking of the old UA.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah. I was like, that's definitely not how that works anymore.
God damn it.
No, it's just like it's a pool of D6s.
That sucks. Because I really liked that idea.
It does upgrade to 8, D8, D10, D12.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. Like, I think I've said this before on podcast, but there's a really cool Final Fantasy 14 homebrew that I read a while back, and Samurai has like a tradable currency for its fun boy points, right? Like,
right.
You have to spend your action economy to gain the points, and then you spend them through your special attacks, and then you lose them, and then you have to get them back. And I really, really wish 5e would start doing that, because I'm getting kind of bored of the cool, you do your thing, now it's gone. You know?
Yeah. I see
like with spells, I get, right? Like,
you're getting bored you're bored of everything being an ammo count.
Yeah, like spells I understand, because spells are ludicrously powerful at certain points and are always going to be able to do more than being able to trip someone infinitely, or not infinitely, but more than 5 times a day, you know? Like there's much more ramifications for casting something like Tsunami than there will be for goading attack 12 times.
Right. Then just tripping someone over and over again.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it
more
would also
interesting.
give people more of a reason to play marshals.
Yeah, so some sort of more, right, because your stuff isn't tied to the rest stuff. You can kind of just like do it whenever. Yeah, that's true.
Or like, for God's sakes, what if Bard had something like an ability called like Psych Up, where they could trade a spell slot for a number of inspirations equal to like the spell level halved.
Yeah, I mean, Sorcerer has that flexible casting.
It does, and I love it, and it's fantastic. Give me more of that.
Yeah. The only problem with flexible casting is when you convert from spell slots to sorcery points, you actually lose a little bit in the conversion, which is a little annoying, but it is a fun concept. I do like flexible casting. It's an idea. Yeah, well,
I think it would also be cool if you could, as a battle master, you could burn your action surge for more maneuvers. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I would have to think about that a little bit to consider how it would like work, but it's an interesting idea initially. But I think to close us out, because it's that time of year again. I guess, what's your favorite subclass for the fighter? That's what I'll close this with. Gotta think about it.
I'm basic. I'm Battle Master, to be honest. Like,
okay.
I just really like Battle Master. I feel like I'm dissuaded from saying Echo Knight because everyone's is Echo Knight. Or most people would say Echo Knight or Rune Knight, but for me, it's tried and true. It's Battle Master. I love Battle Master.
Okay. Matt?
There's a part of me that wants to say Rune Knight because I have an idea for a Dwarf Rune Knight that I really, really, really want to play. But I think I'm going to end up saying Side Warrior.
Ooh. Okay.
Because I just think it's so cool. And it's like, yes, finally, I could play Darth Vader. Nice.
That's a good point. He is pretty Darth Vader.
Yeah. For me, man, I also kind of want to say Battle Master, but I also kind of want to say Rune Knight, but I also kind of want to say Arcane Archer.
What about Samurai, Josh? You don't like the Samurai?
Fuck Samurai.
Oh my god, Samurai makes it so sad.
Up, Samurai. It's not as bad, honestly. I was rereading it the other day, and I'm like, why?
I read
like,
it
why
so
do
often.
a lot of people hate it?
Because it doesn't feel like a samurai.
Yeah, Isaiah's beef is my whole thing about mechanics reinforcing fiction. He doesn't feel like the mechanics of samurai make the fiction of a samurai. They don't fit. We've gone back and forth about that one a little bit. I'm also not super happy with samurai, although my reasons are slightly different from Isaiah's, but it's a similar kind of thing.
I would almost prefer if samurai was called like warrior poet or something like that.
Yeah.
Because yes, samurais were warrior poets, but like when I think of samurai, I want to think of like maneuvers. I want to think of fighting styles. I think of archery, and yes, there's some mounted combat there, and yes, samurai were cavalry units. But I want to think. I want to think spear tactics, bow tactics, sword styles.
Isaiah wants to do the Demon Slayer, like different, forms, strikes type stuff.
I mean, yes, but not even like that anime. Like I just like
no, I don't mean that anime, but that idea of like that's the sort of thing a samurai does, is they have these different like form strike maneuver situations. They have these different little like blade techniques they whip out.
Like think of how sick it would be if you could do some Ogami Ito shit and you could fight in the water without having disadvantage, because like the style you were taught specializes in fighting in water. That'd be sick.
Isaiah wants to be able to do a Zantetsuken.
I want to hit bitches with the wave slicer. 100%.
Yeah. I get it. But yeah, I think Rune Knight's probably my answer, with Battle Master as a very close second, like really close. I think that's how I'll pull it. But yeah, Psy Warrior is also, and Arcane Archer I am finding a new interest in, although I think it does need a little bit of tweaking, but there's definitely some fun there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, well, that's been the fighter chat, more or less, I guess. I don't know. I don't have. I guess we just kind of did our closing thoughts. I was gonna say any closing points, but that kind of was it.
March on, my variant human fighters. Go out into the world. Spread.
Oh yeah. Also, side note.
Expand.
I am not against the human fighter. I am perfectly fine with playing the human fighter. There's lots of cool examples of human fighters out in media. No problem there. I'm not a hater on that idea. I know it gets memed on a lot, but I actually, the tropes, the halfling rogue, the human fighter, the half-elf bard, the tiefling sorcerer or warlock. I do like a lot of those tropes. I ain't even gonna lie,
Yeah,
but
I think that's why they're good, right? It's like they're tried and
cool.
true. And I think
they're tried and true. Exactly. But anyway, this session's canceled. please subscribe on the YouTubes. We throw up little fun shorts every once in a while, little nice edits that sometimes don't make it into the episode. You get little extra juicy bits. And follow us on the Twitters. So if I tweet a thing and you're like, I don't know, what did they have for lunch today, and I tweet out what I had for lunch, then you can know. I'm not going to tweet that, but follow for information, news, and updates. Bada bing. And
also, don't worry about it. Don't worry about our editor, Brett. His cage is really nice. We keep the temperature cool. He's got plenty of water.
No, he's fine. He's fine.
He's
Let's
fine.
not. He's fine.
Why do you lie to the people?
He has access to Twitter. They can see him reply to us on Twitter. So
it's true. It's true.
Please.
If your podcast platform of choice has a rating system, give us the good rating. The 5 or the 10 or the 37% or whatever it is on the various platforms, because everyone does it differently and no one can agree on a method. Anyway, bye-bye.